Hello, everybody out there. I think we are live, and I hope there are already a lot of people watching. Uh, I guess some of you have still to join, but I am so very happy that I have Rachel Pollack with me here today. She was very kind, and we had a long time to find an appointment, but finally we made it. And thank you very much, dear Rachel. How are
Oh,
you?
thank you. My pleasure, really.
Yeah, thank you very much. We Germans, we don't have much opportunity to see you because you're not very often in our country or in Europe, actually, I think.
Yeah, not enough. I wish I was more.
Yeah, I hope you come back at one point again. We can see you all live. But right now, to talk to you here is a really great pleasure for me.
Okay.
First, people are arriving also, and like always, if there are any questions out there you want to ask Rachel, whatever it is about, of course, no reading questions right now. We have more of a chat here. Just let me know and I will ask Rachel these questions. You can comment, we can come back later to the questions, no problem. And of course, we have prepared something, or I have prepared some questions. And as I said, Rachel, I would really like to know about your beginnings as a tarot reader because I don't know very much about it. I was wondering how somebody like you, or you especially, started in around, I guess, in the 70s or 80s. You must have started being interested in tarot and how this all came about. Perhaps you can tell us something about this.
Sure. Well, it was actually spring of 1970, somewhere around April or so, April or May. I was teaching. I taught for 2 years at a college in upstate New York, as we call it, near the Canadian border,
Mm-hmm.
and very, very, very cold place in winter. Um, I don't know well, actually, minus 40 is the same in both the American Fahrenheit and the European Celsius.
Wow.
Or centigrade. And so sometimes it would be minus 40.
Oh, God.
It was unbelievably cold. And so one of the teachers was a friend of mine. She didn't have a car. It was only a 10-minute walk to home, but it was 10 minutes and that cold was too much. So she said, if you give me a ride home, I'll read your tarot cards. And I knew a tiny bit about tarot cards, mostly from studying literature. Um, I knew of them from a poem called The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, one
Mm-hmm.
of the really great, great poems of the 20th century. And The Wasteland's all about the King Arthur Fisher King story, and there's a tarot reader in it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because Eliot had been exposed to the Golden Dawn people, and also there was a book that I read actually. Maybe I read it in college. Yeah, I had read it in college actually, called From Ritual to Romance, and it was this theory that the Grail stories were based upon ancient fertility rituals from before Christianity. That's since been proven not true. But in her book, she put forward the idea that the four tarot suits were all the four objects in the Grail story. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
knew about it. And this friend of mine read my cards, and I have no memory of what the cards said or what they were, except for one card, which was the Six of Swords. And I had no interest. I had no really, I pretty much no interest really in what she was predicting or saying. Um, but the card itself just totally fascinated me because it was so mysterious. You know, I mean, it just showed these people in this boat, and this guy behind them. He's pushing the boat through the water, and it's very silent. And and there was a little book that I went and got afterwards, and the book described the picture and sort of said what it meant, but the book was at least as mysterious as the picture. Um, and I just thought I have to have this. I have to go find this. And that was just before the big popular edition came out.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the first deck I had was not the one that became standard. It was one done by a small press, probably without permission.
When
It,
was this?
it, I'm sorry.
And what year was this, or what
This would have
period?
been 1970.
Okay.
Still 1970, but I went to look for it right, looked for it right away, and I just became totally by it. It seemed to me it was just opening to these endless stories, because you had these people doing things, and you didn't know where they came from, where they're going, you know. And yeah, and then they had this book, like I said, that seemed to explain things, but also was also mysterious, you know. And I started doing readings for friends. It never occurred to me I had to study and memorize things ever. If I had, I never would have done it. I'm sure. Since my teachers would say, well, you must not do readings until you have memorized every single card and all its meanings. And
Oh.
they'll say, you must first also memorize everything on the tree of life and so on and so on. And all the alchemy and all the astrology. And I would never have done it ever. So I just started doing readings. Put a card down, look it up in the book, and see what you get. And a lot of people have noticed this. I've read over the years that when you first start any kind of oracle system, like tarot cards or something else, the readings you get are kind of amazing in the way they really kind of zero in right on people's lives and what's going on and predictions and stuff. And later on, as your understanding becomes more complex, you lose some of that hardcore. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people just stay with that forever, but you gain a lot by learning more. But what I found over the years though about that actually is that when people need to know when it's important, it's always clear.
Yes.
If people just are curious or just want to see, that it's meaningful to them, it's helpful to them, but it's not absolutely clear and precise like that. It's an amazing thing.
Yes.
And so then I started telling stories with the pictures, just for myself and some friends, and and that's how I got to be interested. And then when I went to Europe next year, I took them with me, and I was in Europe for some years. And I came back at one time and was visiting a cousin, um, and we were on the beach for a weekend. And she said, Rachel, she said, will you teach me the tarot? So we spent several hours just going through the tarot card by card and what the different things are. Because by then I knew it pretty well, I think. So that was then what that taught me was that I had something to teach, that I had an understanding of it that was worth sharing. I really didn't know that. I just was doing it, readings for myself and other people. And so I went back to Europe, and then as a writer, you always look for these jobs that don't interfere with your writing. I call them writer's jobs. When I was younger, I used to read the biographies of writers in the back of a book I liked, and it said, um, you know, John Jones has worked as a lumberjack and a short order cook in a restaurant and a high school teacher and delivery boy. And I thought, oh wow, he got all these jobs that have experience for his writing. And actually, those are just jobs you get to bring some money in because your writing isn't selling yet.
True.
so, but so I was doing those kind of jobs, and the job I had was cleaning a bar, which was a great job for a writer because you do 2 or 3 hours a day and then you're free the rest of the time. Then I was fired 4 days before Christmas, even though I'm Jewish, it still bothered me. It was just before Christmas. I thought, well, he's Christian. He shouldn't do that.
They always do this.
So I needed a job, and I thought, okay, what should I do? And I thought, I'll teach tarot. So I went to this center in Amsterdam and knocked on the door, very scared. It was a very big, imposing old building, kind of Art Deco, beautiful old building. And someone answered, and I said, I'd like to teach a class in tarot. Said, come back Thursday, 10 o'clock. That's when we have our meeting.
You're
Oh,
kidding.
okay. So I went back, and they said, so I told them, I started describing what I do. Now, the thing I didn't understand then was that the head of that organization who was in the meeting, he was a famous tarotist in Europe.
Really? Who was
Yeah,
it?
Hans Wesseling was his name.
Ah,
He
I've,
was
I've heard of
back.
him actually. Yeah.
And Hans actually, but see, he was an expert in occult Kabbalistic tarot. He
Yes.
never did readings. For a lot of the group of people, readings were low level. You shouldn't readings. You should just do the pure spiritual work.
Yes.
Anyway, so it was clear I did readings. That my whole approach was based on readings. That's where the knowledge came from. You do readings, you learn about the cards. So he said, "Will you do a reading for somebody?" And I said, "Oh, okay. I hate doing that. Doing readings on display. With people watching to try to prove something." But I had no choice. So I did a reading for this person, and the only woman volunteered. And she came forward, and I laid the cards out for her, a Celtic cross. I looked at them, I thought, oh my God, this is terrible. This immense sadness and pain. So I said, okay, said to myself, the only way I can possibly do this is to pretend no one else is here. So I said to her, have you been feeling sad lately? And she burst into tears. And I made it through the reading. It was all about, a breakup and being treated badly and pain. Um, and then the reading ended and everyone was silent. And then the head of the group said, when would you like to start? And I found out later that someone on the committee who was there, she had lived with him for years. He had just told her to leave. He just kicked her out, basically.
Oh.
So and everyone knew that, of course. I didn't know it, obviously. So that was what the meeting was about. So that was why they were impressed. So I started teaching, and I got a little notebook. And before I taught, took every I took every card, wrote it down, left several blank pages. I wrote down everything I knew and understood about that card. I really recommend this so much to people, at the beginning of your studies. And then you leave several pages blank after that. And as I taught, card by card, you know, I learned more stuff. I put them in that notebook. And then meanwhile, I was trying to sell my fiction and not doing too well. I sold some stories, but no novels. And I thought, well, why don't I write a book about tarot cards? So I started writing a book, and I went to this store. This wonderful store that sold antiquarian old occult books. Beautiful work, you
We're
know.
still in Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, still in Amsterdam. Yeah,
Hmm.
they closed the store sadly. Anyway, and at, had become friendly with this young American who worked there. So I said to him, I went and said to him, so I thought, I'm always sending my fiction to America. Why don't I try to sell this here in Holland? This tarot book. So I said to him, I'm writing a book on tarot. I'm thinking maybe I should approach a publisher. Do you know any publishers that might want to publish a new book on tarot? Translated, of course. He said, well, we might. And I noticed they had just decided they would start publishing new books instead of just only old books. And so that was the beginning of 78 Degrees of Wisdom.
And
And
was
yeah,
this written in English then or in Dutch?
well, he published it, he translated into Dutch, the publisher the scores, but then he sold the rights. It was in two volumes. I don't know if you know this originally. Um, and so he bought volume one and he sold the rights to an English company to do it in England, in the original language, of course. And then when I was ready to do the second one, Nick wasn't that wild about it because he hadn't made that much money from it. But the English company liked it. So they said, okay, well, we'll publish the second one. And then the Dutch edition can be licensed from us. It was a crisscross thing.
Okay.
So that was how it started. And that book was popular. And I did some other books. And publishers started approaching me and saying, we have a new deck. Would you like to do a book about it? That's how I did the Salvador Dali tarot book. Um, and then,
Can I just ask you a question because
yeah,
here is my copy. Oh, you can't see it because of the green screen
yes,
of the
that's the new
78
edition. Yeah,
uh,
that
degrees
was
of
one volume.
wisdom.
Yeah.
Actually, you gave me an autograph I discovered today. I didn't know this. um, um, I was wondering when I went through this book again, and I'm sure every German out there has read this book as well. In German, it's 78 Stufen der Weisheit. I was wondering how much influenced you were then on how much the influence of Kabbalah was then there, because when I go through the book, you have this countdown. Usually you open up a book and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the suits, but here you have 10, 9. Or you can't
Well,
tell.
that came from Waite, actually.
You
Our favorite Waite, who did the Rider deck,
Yeah.
Pollack Smith, he did it that way.
Hmm.
And I actually only learned afterwards the reason for that. Maybe I learned about Tyro 70 degrees, I'm not sure. But that for Waite and for Kabbalists, um, 10 is furthest away from the truth, which is one, Keter, the crown.
Yeah.
Um, and so even though the tree is the image, the diagram of the tree is one's the top and 10's at the bottom, what you want really spiritually is to go up from the bottom to the top.
Yes.
So in a sense, they write it as 10, 9, 8, 7, like a countdown, like for a rocket to take off, which is actually an interesting comparison, because the idea is that if you can do that, you will take off spiritually.
Yeah.
You will
So,
leave the earth behind and go into the spiritual realm. So it's actually very similar to a rocket taking off. I never thought about that 10, 9, 8 thing, but that's why I did it in the book that way.
okay, I was thinking you were trained Kabbalistically and later kind of switched to something else because in your later books it's the other way around, one, two, three,
Yeah,
four.
yeah,
Interesting. So
yeah.
actually, what you're telling there is that you came to all of this a bit by chance or destiny, however we want to put it.
Well, to be honest, it feels I'm not a I don't often claim things are destiny because it seems very kind of like egoistic.
Ah,
But it really feels like that. People say, "When did you discover tarot?" And I say, "Well, really, the tarot discovered me." I really, that's what it feels like to me.
it, it feels a
The
bit
tarot
like
got hold of me and wouldn't let go. It's an amazing thing. It's a very powerful experience to have something come into your life like that, seemingly by chance, but to be so powerful and really life changing in many ways. Not just the fact that it became my field of study, but in many ways it changed my life. And so that's really what it's been like.
yeah. So you wrote the you said the Salvatore Dali booklet or
Yeah,
book to the cards which came out then.
in 1984 that was actually, I believe. Yeah,
Oh,
that was uh, that was the first um, book I was asked to do for a deck did not know about ahead of time. Since then, there
okay.
have been several others, and of course, most famously, the Heindel Tarot.
Of course, which we want to
And,
talk
and
about.
the reason that happened was because that book you just held up, the German edition of 78 Degrees, that was far more popular than the English edition at that time. And the reason was the English edition was still in 2 volumes, so it was a little bit expensive, and the German publishers had the smart idea to make it 1 volume and not so expensive. So it reached many, many people. And then they called me up one day. I was writing about this on the internet. It's hard to remember life before the internet, before email or any of these things. So he called me up and he said, "Well, we have a new deck we're doing by a German artist named Hermann Heindel, and do you think you might be interested to do the book to go with it?" And I thought they meant, little white book as we call it in America, the LWB, the little comes in the package. I said, "Sure, maybe I can see the card or something like this, and we'll see. But that sounds good to me, you know." Anyway, so 2 days later, Herman and Erica Heindel arrived at my Dutch apartment, climbed up the stairs, their arms full of really big paintings.
All
And
the
the truth
tarot
was, the
cards and
paintings,
big
I'm not
paintings.
sure how, they're little less, they're not a meter high, but they're close to a meter high. You know, they're quite big, and they're all oil paintings. Herman was this amazing painter. And so we started looking at the pictures, and it was this really wonderful experience. And meeting Herman and Erica was a great experience. So immediately it became clear that this would be much more than just a little book. Um, and so then they invited me to come to Germany, to Hofheim, their town,
Mhm.
and to stay in their house for a while so we could look at the pictures. So I took the train um, and I went to stay with them. I have to tell you, I'm Jewish and I was born in 1945. So in that generation, we grew up with kind of attitudes to Germany as this
Of
place of
course.
monsters in a sense. I didn't have that, but on a conscious level, but at a certain level, it felt strange to be taking a train into Germany,
Of
you know?
course.
And then as soon as I met the Heinos and the people around them, it just vanished instantly. And because I just got over this stupid idea. and, and I became friends really for the rest of their lives, Herman and Erica. And but every day we would spend the afternoon. Herman would bring a painting out, and we would talk about it. Erica had to translate back then because Herman's English was very little. And um, actually, it was funny because he would say something and she would translate, and I would respond. And rather than just translate what I responded, she would start talking with me because she wanted to say something. She was interested in what I said. So we would start talking back and forth, and Herman would go, translate, translate. We were leaving Herman behind. Um, so I did that, and then I think I came a second time to Germany to do that. And later on to teach. I also came to teach at Herman's house. But also I went to Italy, where they had a house in Tuscany that they were in the they were busy fixing it up. It was pretty nice, but it was still a little bit needed work. And I went there for Christmas and New Year's. It was a wonderful time. Yeah, and that's how I got to work with it. And then and it became very popular. Untitled Tarot.
You also did a book on the Kabbalah with him, though.
Yes, that was interesting. He had done a painting of the Kabbalah tree,
Yeah.
and so a little bit of background about that situation. He had also done a book on the runes. You know that the Heindel Tarot has runes in every card. He
Yes.
did a book just on runes, right? And the publisher found someone very famous in the study of runes to write the book for it. Except this person, Englishman, he everything he wrote was only about the runes, nothing but Herman's pictures,
God.
which Herman was very upsetting, of course.
Of course.
And what Herman loved about my book on the tarot cards was all about his pictures and his life story and the message he wanted to give. So I learned all this from him. And so he called me up and he said he had done this book on the Kabbalah tree, and he would love for me to write I've done this picture, a painting, not a book, not cards, a painting. And he would love for me to write a book about it. And I said, well, Herman, I said, I don't know the Kabbalah that well, and I know there are people who know it much more than me. He said, yes, but you know me. You'll know my paintings. I
That
said,
sounds like
okay.
him.
Yeah. So that's what we did, and that became this tree. And I had to learn things. I had to learn some of the details of the journey on the tree in my own way. I used a comic book, a graphic novel called Promethea, which has a long section about it's a superhero thing, but it's very Aleister Crowley tarot also at the same time, very occult. Anyway, so I used that for information about the different places on the tree, the Sephiroth.
Hmm.
Um, and also, I framed it with knowledge of the world tree and mythology, not just in Kabbalah. I wanted to give it a bigger context. And also, I had my reading on Kabbalah was to a large extent Jewish Kabbalah, which is not the same, I learned, as Tarot Kabbalah. Tarot Kabbalah is an occult Hermetic tradition. Jewish Kabbalah is a more spiritual tradition based on the Bible and other kinds of Jewish traditions. So I brought that in. So I was able to bring in a number of different things. Plus, Herman's picture was so vivid, you know, and so I was able to just see what he drew, like in between the Sephiroth, the circles.
Mm.
You know, I remember one of them had a flying rabbi, which I loved. He was a traditional old world rabbi with the long black coat and the hat, and the beard, but he was flying through the air, like Superman.
Super
I just love
rabby.
that. It was just great. I mean, and so very Herman, Herman had a sense of humor, and
Yeah, actually, it's one of my preferred books when I reread something about the Kabbalah because
good,
you
glad.
explain things very well. I have the German edition, and it's yeah, for me it's a. I think it's probably because you are not a trained Kabbalist that you can explain it much better to people
Yeah,
who
I
are
use
not
it
in the
as a
know.
vehicle.
That's really
Um,
amazing. Um,
it's interesting. I've had, Mary Greer and I do this thing every summer. We have several teachers teach with us. This place here in America, and once or twice I've had somebody who's real expert,
mhm.
on Kabbalah and tarot. And what we found sometimes is they don't seem to understand that the class is not just Kabbalah people, because their usual place to teach is people who are already in that study,
Yeah.
and Aleister Crowley. And so you have to like have a different frame of mind if you know that people in the audience have no previous knowledge. And that's something I try to always be conscious of when I teach.
Yeah.
To never assume. That's why I wrote 70 Degrees of Wisdom, actually. I thought to myself, who am I writing this for? I couldn't write until I knew who I was writing it for. I said, okay, so I'm writing it for people who may know a lot, but also who may know nothing, but have a sensitivity, a feeling for these kinds of things.
Yes.
So as I was writing it, I always kept stop. I would stop. I would say something. I would stop. Wait a minute. Am I making a reference that someone might not know? And then I would explain it before I moved on. So I think that's one reason why the book is so popular. Anyone can read it. But it's also serious. It's not a beginner's book. It's a very serious book, but you don't have to. You can be a beginner, but it's not a beginner's book. If you understand what I mean,
Yeah, I
you know.
totally understand what you.
And the Kabbalah book, I tried to do something like that as well, but also because there I was a beginner to a large extent, you know. And I mean, you have to really do a cult Kabbalah and the Hermetic Golden Dawn tradition, Aleister Crowley, and so on. You really have to devote your life to it, and that's
Yeah,
why I have so much respect for people who do that. And also, you know, they don't. Me, I'm just learning. I'm just learning what it is. I'm learning the ideas of it and the beauty of it and the images and the stories. But they're, of course, they're doing rituals. You know, they're really doing it. They're not just learning it. And so they have a way of understanding that I don't.
yeah,
But what I can offer is something is from someone who doesn't, who's
exactly.
not that deep into the details of it, but has a feeling for it, and also the spiritual meaning of it. You know, as a Jew from a fairly traditional Jewish family, I never heard the word Kabbalah until I
Really?
got into tarot.
Okay. That's
Tarot
amazing.
is just the Kabbalah. It was quite, and then but because they said it was Jewish, I immediately went to Jewish sources. I did not know it was a different Kabbalah,
Yeah.
the tarot Kabbalah. So I learned all this wonderful stuff, and um, and I did it recently. Of course, I did this deck called the Raziel Tarot. I don't know if you know of that. Robert placed at the art,
Ah, yeah, of course,
and
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, it's a beautiful deck. Majors only. We're hoping now to do a full deck of it, all 78 cards. Anyway, but so that deck is not Kabbalah. It's Jewish stories, and some tarot people have trouble understanding that
Hmm.
because it's Jewish. They think it must be Kabbalah, and
Ah,
so I've had to say no. It's actually Jewish stories, legends, Jewish myths
traditions.
about the great figures in the Jewish history. Joseph is the fool, Joseph the dream interpreter, things like that. Um, so, for example, on the card of the Empress, she has a tambourine and she's playing it, and on it is the Hebrew letter Mem. Um, so people got very confused because Mem goes with the hanged man in the Tarot Kabbalah tradition, and I said yes, but it's not. It's not Kabbalah. It's Miriam as the goddess of the waters, and the M stands for Mayim, which is the word for water.
Hmm.
And in fact, Mem on the Tree of Life place is also it's water. It's the element of water, but it's in the place of the hanged man. Anyway, but so this is all about this story is about Miriam and the waters, and when she played the tambourine and the women danced and sang with her to celebrate their being rescued from the Pharaoh's army at the Red Sea. Anyway, and so I said, and this it turned out when I studied this that that's the oldest piece of the Bible. And all the five books of Moses, the oldest part, of course. But then in the five books of Moses, this little passage, this is like about 2 or 3 lines. The song Miriam and the women sang in celebration, the scholars now say that's the oldest piece of the entire Bible.
The piece about Miriam.
Where she and the women are singing a song of celebration that they've been delivered from the army that was going to kill them, was coming after them.
So this is kind of the great mother then.
Yeah, so I decided, see, I'm a heretic. You know the term heresy?
Of course.
Someone said she was asked in a forum what was her faith, and I thought, well, if I'm asked that, my answer would be heresy, because I'm interested in all spiritual traditions, but only from the radical side, never from the side of obedience or the side of what you're supposed to know. You know,
Yeah.
so one of my heretical ideas in Judaism is that Miriam was originally the goddess of the waters. Everything about her was water. She finds Moses in the water at the beginning of the story of Moses. Um, Well, as long as she's alive, there's always water. When she dies, there's no water, and so on. So I feel that she was originally a goddess of the waters, and Moses was her younger brother, and maybe also her husband or consort or her son. And then when the Hebrew story took over, when they rewrote everything, they made her Moses' sister,
It's really
and Moses was
interesting.
the hero. So that's what part of that meaning of that card was. So the card is a radical side to it, the power of the female
Uh,
energy.
What is the name of the deck again, please?
Raziel, Raziel.
Like the angel.
Yeah, the angel rising. Oh, thank you for knowing that. It's not that well known. Yeah.
Okay, I just had
No,
my
it's a great
Kabbalah
poem.
session yesterday.
It's a great poem. No, yeah.
I have to
And
look it up.
it's out of print. We had a limited edition because it was a fundraising campaign, and they're all sold out. But we're hoping to do, like I said, a full deck. So that will be coming into print, but not for a while. It's going to take us a while to do that. We're just getting started on it.
Hmm.
We've already done the aces, and I've already decided what pictures we should have for the court cards. But Bob then has to find images to do his pictures from, and so on. So it takes a while. We have to do of course, the 40 numbered cards. No, seriously, we did the aces, so 2 for 10 in each suit.
Okay.
But I'm really so excited to be doing this.
Yeah, it sounds really great. I
The
will
Roswell cards, I think, came out so beautifully.
I will look this up what I can find more out about it.
Oh, you should find out stuff about it pretty easily. If you go to Robert Place's, I think he calls it alchemicaltarot.com or Hermes. Just look up Robert Place, Robert M.
I
Place. You'll
still need
find
to talk to Robert, I think, in one of my
it.
talks
Okay.
here.
Robert, person for you to interview. Yeah.
Um, actually, I wanted to just come back because we're now into Kabbalah. As we discovered, you were in Hamburg in 2009 for our German Tarot Congress we had then, and Hermann Heindl was there as well, and many other people. It was a huge
Okay.
congress just after Hajo Banzhaf's death, which
That's
was
right. Yes.
kind of sad. I was translating you when you were talking,
Mhm.
and one of the things which started me looking more deeply into Kabbalah, because before 2009 I couldn't really be bothered with it, if I have to confess something very horrible or heretically. um, you were saying something which really stuck with me, and this is what I would want to talk to you about shortly, and perhaps the people watching will profit from this because I think it's really exciting. Um,
Mhm.
I'm going to take off the frame here for a second,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we can see the image better.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
Before I do this, I just wanted to show you. Oh no, this is the wrong thing. What is this?
Okay.
This is not what I was supposed to show you. Um, I can't find it right now. Is it this? No. Okay, I give up. I show the other thing.
Okay.
Here. I'm going
Okay.
to hide myself because the people might not see it so well then, but I can go like this. And here you can see Rachel and me in 2009 in Hamburg, and she's talking about the Tree of Life. And you were talking about, I think this one here is the
Mhm.
old Tree of Life, and this one is the new Tree of Life.
Mhm.
And well, I don't want to say anything. Perhaps you can. Can you still repeat what you were saying, or shall I say
Sure.
it?
Yeah. So first of all, about the two trees. So since I did that, I found that the tree on the right is actually older than I thought. See, the tree on the right is the Golden Dawn tree, the one that everybody knows in tarot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The tree on the left is from Isaac Luria,
Mm-hmm.
who was a very, very famous rabbi in the 16th century, and they called him the Lion. He was this great teacher, and so I thought that that was the kind of oldest one,
Mm-hmm.
and and then the later one was the one. But then apparently there was a Kabbalist, a very, very early one, who did the one on the right first,
Okay.
and then so the history of the one on the right is so it passed from that person to a man named Athanasius Kircher, who was a Christian Kabbalist. Because Kabbalah went from Jewish, then there was a Christian Kabbalah, then there was the occult Kabbalah, which is not just Christian, it's all
Mm-hmm.
world religion, mythology. Anyway, but so, and Kircher's tree was the one that won the Golden Dawn, and there's Aleister Crowley. So that became the standard occult tree. So the big difference is between the two trees, the Isaac Luria tree on the left and the Golden Dawn tree on the right, is you can see clearly that from the bottom of the tree, which is called Malkut, a kingdom, which is the outside world, the physical world. On the right, there are three pathways into the higher numbers of the tree, um, and on the left, there's only one. I like the one on the left because I like it looks more like a tree. So I never could see why the one on the right they called it a tree. It looks nothing like a tree. But you look at the Isaac Gloria one, it's clearly a tree. It's like one trunk and then all the branches open up.
True.
But symbolically, so the three places are um, nine's the one on the bottom. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, 10. Yeah, nine. Yeah, that's nine. And then eight is the golden one on the left, right? And then seven is on the right. Okay. So each of these have meaning, but they also have a kind of astrological correspondence. So they're different realms. So nine is the place of the moon. It's called Yesod. Um, eight, called Hod, is the place of Mercury. And then seven, Netzach, is the place of Venus. So each of these have particular qualities, you know. And um, and the moon is the place of dreams, of stories, of the unconscious, of mythology, and it's a place that's very uncertain, that's not clear, it's mysterious, you know. And so on the left, you can only get to the higher tree by passing through the lunar realm, the place of mystery and stories and imagination and fear. Um, so then from there you can go up to all these other places, you know. But that's the only way from the bottom of the tree, Malkuth, the kingdom, which is the outer world, the world that we think of as the real world, is to go through the moon. And on the right, you have three choices, though. You can go through the moon, or you can go through eight, which is the realm of Mercury. So that's the realm of mind, of thinking. Um, Mercury is many things, but in particular in Kabbalah, it represents the realm of the mind. Uh, so you can do it in a mental approach, or you can go to Venus on the other side, Netzach, and that's the realm of emotion and passion. So you have three possibilities to leave the bottom of the tree, which is the outer world, and go into the spirit world of the tree, through the moon, through um, the mental, and through the emotions and passions.
Yeah.
So that's a quite, you know, but the interesting thing is, in the European tradition, apart from Kabbalah, um, in general, they saw that the only way to higher levels was through the moon. There was a line, I think, in Shakespeare, or one of the other poets of his time, that refers to our sublunary world, meaning we're the world below the moon. Um, and the reason for that was they did not see the universe as constructed like the tree. They saw it as constructed as a nest of spheres. Um, the Earth was in this comes from Plato actually. So the Earth was in the center, right? Then around that was the sphere of the moon. Around that was the sphere of Mercury, and then Venus, pretty much the same order as the tree. But in their way of understanding, you could not just choose where you want to go. To to go past the Earth, you had to go through the lunar sphere. You know. So an interesting point about that whole tradition, that whole cosmology, is that as you might remember, the big question was when um, it was changed by Copernicus. He said, no, it doesn't really work. The Earth is not the center of the universe. The astronomy doesn't work. It's a mess. So when you put the sun in the center, Earth is one of the planets, then it works, And people rebelled against this. But modern people assume they like the old way because, well, we're the center of the universe. We're in the center. Yay for us. Some modern thinking, particularly American thinking. Americans like to think they're the center of everything.
Okay.
Uh, but it wasn't. That's not what it was. It was the opposite in a certain sense. To be in the center of all this nest is to be furthest away from God, because God was outside all the spheres. So the way you could ascend back to the divine was to go through the moon, through Mercury, through Venus, etc., until you got outside, which is the same as the Kabbalah tree, except
Like an
instead of that,
astral journey meditation.
yeah, exactly. Um, and there were some rituals and meditations that were seen as dangerous in the times of the rabbis because it was so extreme. You could do great damage to your psyche and so on and so on. Um, but so that's the tree that corresponds to the spheres.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I really like the thought, and it made me think a lot. It's now over 10 years, and it has, I recapitulated today, influenced my approach to tarot a lot, what you said there. Because I really like this thought that we have to look at the moon also as tarot readers in order
yeah,
to get the vision. But also we
Yeah.
have the option to go via Mercury, mind, or Venus, attraction, or
Yeah.
whatever. But the moon is the one we really need to connect to in order to have.
Well, what you said to me in your email when you reminded me of this was you said that I had said that there's 3 ways to be a tarot reader.
Yes.
And I hadn't thought about that in so long, so it was like some fresh information to me, even though you said it came to me. but but
Fun, isn't it?
what I liked about thinking about that again was that yeah, because you can read according to Mercury,
Yeah.
which is a set of intellectual understandings, you know, and a mental approach and what the correspondences are, and it's a very powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
You can read through Venus, and that's to read emotionally, to connect emotionally with the person you're reading for, to really feel their emotions, to be empathetic, connect with them, um, and also to respond to the cards emotionally.
Yeah.
Look at the card and you get an emotional reaction that tells you something. Or you can read with the moon, in which case you have more like a psychic kind of thing sometimes, or intuitive, but you're also making up stories and you feel like there's mystery and this weirdness and it can be scary. So I tend, if I was, I tend to try to combine them all, to be honest. But I'm probably most connected to the moon approach.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm too.
Yeah.
um, yeah. I'm just monitoring. People are in awe. Nobody dares to ask a question.
Well,
But I think it's also what we're giving out here, or what you're giving out, is a lot of interesting information, which doesn't need much questions. Um,
hopefully they're not thinking to themselves, what is she talking about?
no, I don't think
I
so.
can't even ask a
Don't
question.
worry about this. Actually, I think I found the pic I wanted to show you before,
Okay.
and yeah,
Yeah.
there it is. As you can see, this is a new edition of the 78 wisdoms
Wow.
of 70 degrees, 78 degrees of
78
wisdoms.
degrees. Yeah.
And my husband was today in a bookstore here in Hamburg, and it's in the shop window. So it's
Did that just come out? You said it's a new edition.
no, I think it is a new edition, but it hasn't. It's not a very new edition. But as you can
Okay.
see, people are
Yeah.
always coming back to this
Okay.
book because
Yeah.
it's
Good. It was
so
good to have you,
important.
but I wasn't sure. So I wanted to see if it was just out. Yeah.
Yeah, and because you are so important, you are still teaching. You said, and you wanted to tell people about your new Zoom course, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't actually have. We started talking before I started looking this up, but so this first of all, there's a couple ways you can try to find it, which is you can email me rachel@rachelpollack.com, and I'll give you information. You can also go to my Facebook page, which is just Rachel Pollack. You don't have to be officially a friend. You can just scroll down through it, and you'll see this announcement. And I think the organization is called morbidanatomy.org, something like that. I think.
I will of
Anyway,
I will
so
of course
there
link
you can
also
go in.
to this. No problem.
Sorry, what?
I will also link in the show
Okay,
notes to
yes, yes,
this.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, so they asked me what I wanted to teach, and I've been thinking a lot about subjects I've thought a lot before, which is the story of Persephone, the goddess who's taken into the land of the dead from her mother, and then brought back, but she has power to help the dead. It's a very complex story, and to me, it's very much in the tarot. Um, Persephone, let's get some cards out. So, the story features actually it features her mother Demeter, and Demeter to me is a great hero because her daughter is taken from her, and no one will tell her why or how, because Death has just taken her to be his bride, you know. And then she finally finds out. She's told by the sun, which is Helios. So here's the sun card, one of the cards, right? Okay, and also by the moon, but the dark moon, which is Hecate. Um, so those two tell her that what happened was that Death wanted her to be his bride, and they took her, you know. And meanwhile, so this is the Empress card, and this is Demeter. It's two. This card is so interesting because it's two passionate goddesses who are often opposed. One is Aphrodite, which we can see by the little woman picture, a woman's shield. You know, that shield with that thing which today means it's a biological symbol for women.
Yeah.
It's actually originally the astrological symbol for Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Aphrodite. But then also there's wheat growing at the bottom of the picture. And that's Demeter, the goddess of the wheat of growing things. So Demeter is the one who loses her daughter. So Persephone goes and she comes back, but she comes back with power. In fact, when she's taken, she's just called Corey, daughter. She has no name. You know, she has no separate identity from her mother. And if you look at ancient imagery of the two of them, Demeter and Persephone, they're twins. You can't tell the difference. You know, um, but Corey, the daughter, was sometimes shown as holding a pomegranate. Um, this is a replica of a statue um, found in a, an archaeological thing.
Other way
Yeah.
around. You always have to change sides. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Don't worry. I do it all the
Okay.
time.
Anyway, but the place is called the Necromantium. Great name, which basically means literally um, doing readings or oracles from the dead. Mantium is means oracle work. You know, the magic arts they call tarot and other things. Anyway, because she was consulted, you know, she was the one to bring the dead back to you for knowledge of the future. Um, so she comes back, but because she's eaten pomegranates, you can see the curtain behind her, those are pomegranates. She has to go back and forth between death and life. Um, and so, but she comes back and she has great power. And we never learn exactly what happened to give her power. But she comes back and she's now brings hope to the dead. So here, of course, is the death card, right? You know, and it's followed by temperance, but then it's followed by the devil. And so the one way to look at the devil is Hades, the god of the dead who traps people. Except Persephone gives them hope because with Persephone they're not trapped. They can move on to another existence. Um, and the way that was acted out for people was in the mysteries every 5 years, thousands of people. It was a 9 day ritual. It's an amazing event. I've celebrated on my own with a small group of people. I hope to do it again maybe next year. Um, at the end of it, the end of the mysteries, we don't know if it seems, because it was, even though they were celebrated for thousands of years, no one ever revealed what happens. Because everyone understood that if you reveal it, it loses its power. And you're harming everyone to come after it. It has to be kept secret. So they all
Mhm.
did. It's an amazing thing that everyone could keep it secret for thousands of years. Um, we do know, however, that they had a vision. And to me, the vision is Persephone in there, not just imagining her, but she's right there. The actual god is there among them. And then what they do is they would pour water out from, from two large vessels or big jars, into cracks in the earth. One's to the east and one's to the west, and they would cry out Hiakia, which means rain, conceive, because it wasn't just about their souls, you know, getting new life. It was about the earth coming back to life after the summer drought. Um, People think Persephone returns in the autumn. Oh no, in the spring, right after the winter, because that's what it says in one of the poems. But the ritual was done in autumn because in parts of Greece and Crete, um, the summer is the barren time, not the winter. And not it's drought, nothing can grow. So autumn rains are what they're calling for. So I realized when I did this myself, right? So I was there in Crete the last day, so I got these things of water, and I went to find a place where there was two cracks in the earth. And I climbed this hill, and I found it was a cliffside. So one opening was the cliff, down below the cliff, right? The other opening was a cave behind me, when the cave is very connected to the story of Persephone. So I poured the water out, and I called Hiakia, and then I realized that that was this picture.
Oh,
That's what she's
yeah.
doing. She's pouring water out in two directions. So that became Persephone returning to her mother.
Oh, I
Um,
love
so
this.
yeah, so so I realized that that kind of like is the cycle. Um, and so if you think of the tarot the way I do it, some may remember the major arcana, the Fool plus 3 rows of seven, three horizontal rows, 1 to 7, 8 to 14, and 15 to 21. So there are 7 vertical rows, of course. So the third row is the Empress on top, the star at the bottom, in between the wheel of fortune. So the empress on top is the mother goddess Demeter. Persephone is on the bottom, and in between is the turning year of the wheel. So for some part of the year, Persephone is away, and for some part of the year, she returns. And this repeats every year.
This is
So
great.
this is some of what I want to talk about. I'll go into more detail and more background. That's like a taste of it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, yeah, I'm really curious now. I have to say.
It's a fascinating. It's really wonderful the way this all works out.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, well, no fact, I'm just certain of it, that Persephone is one of the meanings of the high priestess, but the other one is the Hebrew goddess, I could say, Shekinah, which is the female aspect of God. See, most people, including almost all Jews, have no idea about this, but Judaism does not actually say that God is only male, because it says in the Bible, at the beginning of creation, it says um, God made human beings in God's image, and it says male and female, God, created them.
Yes.
So that's saying that God is male and female, not just human beings.
Yes.
You know. So the female aspect of God is called the Shekinah, which means the the indwelling presence, the part of God that's in the physical world. And it's in the Bible not as a female energy, but just as this powerful energy that's in the world with us, in the Ark of the Covenant. Um, and then when the temple was destroyed in the year 70, um, the Ark was taken and everything was broken, and the Shekinah was exiled with human beings. That's a great story too, but I won't go into that now. Um, so, and part of her symbol is pomegranates. Because paradise, the spiritual and mystical paradise, is called Pards Rimonim, which means orchard of pomegranates. So the high priestess here, so we see the pomegranate, so this is the orchard, but also the shape of the pomegranate, the way they are, is the tree of life, and her body is touching all the parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, so she's the Shekinah, the female aspect of the god. She's also Persephone. So this is some of the kind of things we find in the tarot. If we explore things a little bit and then make connections, and then you learn about something like the story of Persephone. You think, oh, wait a minute, that's in the tarot. That's Demeter is the empress, the high priestess is her daughter Persephone, the star is Persephone returning, and so on. You know.
I actually have a question from Chris here for regarding this. He is a huge fan of yours, he writes, and
Oh, thank you,
he's
Kirsten.
going to. I hope it's Chris male. Chris could be female as well. I just realized. Anyway, Chris, Chris is going to go to your morbid anatomy course, as far as I figure. But
Good.
he or she asks, "Can you see this?" Wait, I have to actually take my glasses out for this one.
Okay.
A question I have been wondering about for a while. In the story of Persephone, the pomegranate seeds are what tie her to the underworld and stop her returning with her mother. Yet we use them now as a positive symbol rather than a negative one. Any thoughts on why this is?
Well, it's a very complicated question, and a lot of people today say that it was not a mistake that she deliberately ate the pomegranate seeds because she wanted to be able to come back and help the dead. You know, um, but also pomegranate seeds are very much a symbol of life. They're a symbol of women, um, and because the juice of pomegranate seed has the estrogen, the female hormone in it. Um, I went to a lecture once. I gave a lecture once, and I said how it's what's called phytoestrogen, plant version of estrogen. And the woman I learned from, she said, no. She just in the audience said, no, it's actual estrogen. It's not plant estrogen. How a plant would have animal estrogen, I don't know, but that's, she's the expert, not me. Anyway, but so the pomegranate seed is female fertility. So it definitely like, the story paints it as kind of she was a bit stupid, you know, as I say it jokingly, like, Hades, the god of the dead, says to her, well, okay, I I can't, I have no choice. I have to let you go. But, I have a couple of pomegranate seeds before you go. You know, just have a nice pomegranate seed. And then, of course, that's the trick. And now she has to go back. And in the poem, when she returns, her mother was well celebrating, says to her, "Tell me the truth, the absolute truth. Did you eat anything in the land of the dead?" And she says, "Yes, I had some pomegranate seeds." And she goes, "Oh no, oh no! Now you can never be with me forever. You have to go back." So, but that's the cycle. Yeah, obviously, that's just a way of talking about winter or drought of summer. For part of the year, nothing can grow. You know, but pomegranate seeds are a very positive thing, and so it's kind of one of the secrets I think of the whole story, that it's something deliberate, and
I
and
think
she does it to have power.
I think pomegranates or apple we often use now are a sign of the goddess, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So we have it with the Greek mythology, with well, of course, with Persephone, but also Hera,
yes, yeah,
Juno
yeah,
is using
yeah,
them, and I think it's just if it's about sexuality, perhaps she enjoyed Hades a bit as well, and
yeah.
who knows?
It's interesting. This is like there's a seemingly feminist interpretation of recent years, but it's not really feminist because it's very hostile to mothers. It's by several women who obviously had real conflicts with their mothers,
Yeah, but on the other
because
hand,
their interpretation is always that she just had to get away from her mother. Her mother was very oppressive, and and so she didn't want to come back, because she had to be with her mother again. And to me, that's a great insult because I mean I understand why people say this. It's a very creative interpretation, but to me, Demeter's the hero, and she's a hero because she doesn't accept what's being told to her.
yeah,
You know, her daughter's taken from her horribly, and first they tell her, "Oh, we don't know where she's going. We have no idea what happened to her." Zeus arranged this, but he pretends and he says, "I don't know. I have no idea." And then finally she finds out. She goes back and she says, "Give me my daughter back." And they said, "No, we can't. It's over. It's finished. It's done. Once you accept it, it's good. She's okay. It's a good match, a good marriage. To be married to the liqueur of the dead. No shortage of people worshiping you, and so on and so on." And she says no, she won't do it. She
mm.
refuses, and she stops the whole world from growing until they have to give in. So to me, she's a great feminist hero.
Yeah, it's female
Demeter.
power. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
Exciting. Yeah,
yeah, it's a wonderful story. Yeah,
Chris is very happy about your answer.
good. Thank you, Chris.
Um, and yeah, now we talked for an hour now. I told you it's
Yes, I
always about
told.
half an
Yeah,
hour, but it was so exciting to talk to you. And
thank you. Yeah, very much.
I really highly appreciate that you took the time. I'm sure
Thanks.
people will watch later this video as well. It's going to stay in Facebook.
Okay.
And
Yeah, yeah.
if there are questions coming up, I will forward them to you.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I hope loads of people are joining your morbid anatomy course, which is really kind of interesting
Yeah,
title, I have to say.
I think that's the name of the organization.
Okay,
I
yeah.
have to check. I'll let you know.
It's
Let's see for sure.
it's very interesting. And you still have all of your afternoon uh,
Yeah,
in America. I'm late in the evening now here, and
yeah.
yeah, so I will kind of start going to bed
Okay.
now, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you, everybody. It's
Thank
really
you for
enjoyed
being
doing this.
there, and people are highly appreciating that you do this. And yeah, have just a great day and a great week, and keep on doing all the interesting projects you
Thank
surprise
you,
us with.
Kirsten. Yeah. You have a wonderful time too. Stay healthy and stay safe.
I will. Okay,
Okay.
everybody out
Okay.
there, have a
Okay.
great day.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.